Hey, folks. Today's episode brought to you by my favorite sponsor, sunsetlakesebede.com. And you'll notice I am hiding the coupon code. Why?
Ding. Nothing.
Our friends at... Why am I hiding it? Because our friends at Sunset Lake know it's not easy to be thankful these days. So they wanted to extend their thanks to this show, our amazing listeners, and a special shout out to Brian for all the lifted tea love.
Yeah, I've had about 47 of them. So it's pretty nice of them. I love tea.
Yeah. The holidays are coming up, which means less daylight, colder temperatures, and a little extra stress on top of an already nutty year. As we wind down 2025, you deserve rest and recharge. Thankfully, our friends at Sunset Lake have kicked off their Black Friday sale. Right now, you can save 30% site-wide when you head to sunsetlakesebede.com, as you can see here, and use the code FRIDAY25. That's the word Friday. The number's 25, no spaces. They got everything you need to chill out, catch your breath this holiday season. Tinctures that help you sleep, gummies that help you sleep, or make it a what hilarious time.
I hate you guys.
And even smokables like keef and pre-rolls, flour. Honestly, folks, great company, great product. It'll be the highlight of your year. I can't read the copy because I get tears in my eyes. I honestly can't read.
What is going on? Do you want me to finish?
You get a bonus, I think, for $100 if you spend $125, but I can't tell what it is. No, it's the orange. It's the citrus flavored 750 milligram Seba tincture. I can't read the call to action because I can't see it. Head over to sunsetlakesebede.com. Use the code FRIDAY25, Friday25, and you'll save 30%. So it's like 2025 Friday, but you'll save 30% on all of their wellness products. For people and pets, they have tinctures for pets. This sale ends December 1st at 11:59 p.m. Eastern. See their site for full terms and conditions. Now time for the show.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
The destiny of America is always safer in the hands of the people than in the conference rooms of any elite.
Sam Seder.
They are unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
Ever get the feeling you've been cheated?
It is Monday, November 17th, 2025. My name is Sam Seder. This is the 5-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. On the program today, Murtaza Hussain, journalist covering the national security and foreign affairs at Drop Site News, on their series of Jeffrey Epstein's involvement with Israeli officials buying, selling weapons all across the world. Also on the program today, Trump reverses. Says House Republicans should vote to release Epstein files. Meanwhile, Trump floats Venezuela talks as the largest aircraft carrier in the world, a U.S. one, arrives off of Venezuela's coast. ICE invades Charlotte, North Carolina, as results from Chicago show ICE is avoiding criminals and simply going after working immigrants and moms. SNAP resumes, states gear up to boot many off of assistance because of the big, beautiful bill. Sparse data showing growing economic woes throughout the country. Taco Trump rolls back tariffs, exemptions on grocery food items. Meanwhile, USDA data inadvertently refutes Trump's promise of more Chinese soybean purchases. Trump floats a meeting with Mamdani as Hochul contemplates raising corporate taxes to help with Mamdani's agenda.
That's a reversal.
Trump administration had dropped Biden-era plan to make airlines compensate for delayed flights, of course. And lastly, Schumer retirement rumor, followed by a renewed call for him to step down as leader now. All this and more on today's Majority Report. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It is Monday, and look who is back.
I am back for my little jaunt out west.
Emma Vigeland back off of her Hollywood tour. Impossible to turn on a computer or to look at a phone without seeing clips of you on multiple shows.
Yeah, I know. You seem agitated by this fact, but I'm promoting our show. You know, I'm promoting the show that we do.
No, I'm not agitated about it at all. I'm saying it's very impressive.
Oh, well, yes. It's like I decided I'll vacation a little with family, and then I'm going to do like pretty much work for Thursday and Friday at the very least. But I had a fun time out west. So
Wait, you just did shows on Thursday and Friday?
yeah. Well, I tried to book
okay.
Wednesday, and then I flew in
Monday,
on Wednesday.
Tuesday, Wednesday.
From yeah, right.
Don't worry, we got the rest of the days covered.
That was my vacation time with my family. Remember, I told you I was with my family.
I thought that was going to be the weekend. It's not a big deal. Look, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you went to that learning, the comedy learning annex.
I brushed up on puns, and I'm going to quadruple down on that going forward because it clearly worked.
The left wanted to make comedy illegal.
Yeah. Well, it is
working so much.
Good to have you back on the East Coast. But I enjoyed. I mean, I don't want to say I enjoyed the Office. What is the name of that show?
Office Hours.
Office Hours.
Yeah.
Wasn't that a movie too?
Yeah.
Office Space.
Office Space. Oh, I don't know. It just sounds derivative to me. But I did see that. I did see that clip that you did with Tim. I always forget his name. Heidecker,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. He asked if you were as old as Noam Chomsky, and I said, no, not quite.
You know, that was the part I saw because I thought that was funny, and I was like, wait a second. Because I thought Tim was much younger than me, and he's not that much younger.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that his career has that feel of like just getting started.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like there's so much ahead of him that I thought that he was much younger.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, a lot of people like even in their early 20s look like they're 50, which is good for when they're 70 because then they look 50. And I thought that's what Tim was going on with that Tim Heidecker guy, that it was like just getting started.
You know, I'd love to participate in this bit, but I have to keep all my options open at this point. But people, if they haven't, check out my Pod Save America thing. That seemed to, you know,
We linked to that yesterday.
Yes.
I think, on
Oh,
Friday,
you
right?
did?
Didn't we?
Oh.
Didn't we link to it on Friday?
Yeah.
Yes.
Office Hours, Higher Learning. That was really fun. And then, of course, the Bituation Room with Francesca
Lathan, right?
Fiorentini. Yes. Well, Higher Learning and Rachel Lindsay, which I was very excited about as well, because she was the coolest bachelorette. But we don't need to get into that.
Well, she was like on that
Yeah,
reality
but
show?
she was like way too good for the show.
I never saw it.
Way too good for
But
it.
I've seen Van Lathan.
We don't
a
have
lot.
to
He's
discuss
got
it.
very good stuff.
Yes.
All right, let's. Matt's saying let's move on. Okay.
Passive aggressive soundboard action.
Exactly. All right. We have no economic data, incidentally, that is coming out, and supposedly there's a rumor going around. I haven't seen too much about this, but supposedly the regime is talking about releasing the jobs numbers without releasing an unemployment rate, which would seem a little bit odd. Nevertheless, Donald Trump ordered some grocery items exempted from tariffs, like coffee, like bananas, where we don't have these huge markets outside of maybe Hawaii to grow these. There were other items, I think, on this list. But I imagine in this environment, we also still have that concept of greedflation, and we may not see those come down for a while. If people can get away with charging more, they will. And the tariffs, the uncertainty with the tariffs certainly has created that environment. But inflation is real. People are feeling it. Here is Kevin Hassett going over the same Walmart claims that Trump made last week, I think it was, that Walmart's Thanksgiving dinner costs 25% than it did last year, which is true.
25% less.
25% less, sorry, than it did last year. But it also has at least 25% less stuff in it.
And the fact that they have to be this specific about that meal in particular kind of says it all, right?
Yep. Here's Kevin Hassett, though, getting called on that little factoid.
The president claims that Thanksgiving costs are down 25%. I mean, does he know that's not true?
Well, if you look at Walmart and the few places that put out their prices of Thanksgiving baskets.
Wait a minute. I got to stop because the Walmart comparison's like not a thing. I mean, Walmart had a Thanksgiving package last year. They've got a Thanksgiving package this year. The one this year contains much less than what the one last year took. So that's why the price is less. Look, we got a chart here. Last year, it was 21 total products. This year, it's 15. Total number of items in those products was 29% now. 29, now it's 22. There's more generic brand stuff. So, I mean, Thanksgiving, if you're going to the store to buy groceries for Thanksgiving, it's going to be more expensive this year.
I really don't understand where you're going in the sense that Joe Biden gave us 20%
He's not
inflation.
president. Donald Trump's president.
No, and you want us to fix the hole that Joe Biden dug right away.
Why does the president tell
the prices went up so much under Joe Biden, and inflation is way down. Inflation is about half what it was in December. This is something that's being fixed fast, and real incomes are up after dropping about 3,000 under Joe Biden. And so, sure, you can find a few things where the price is higher, but there's a whole bunch of stuff where the price is lower, like gasoline, like mortgage rates.
Get the Republican plan to
you understand that mortgage rates have gone way down, and it's much cheaper to buy a home now than it was when
because interest rates have come down, right?
Yeah.
So,
well, wait, because interest rates are down because the economy is slowing down. That's why. That's why.
Can you imagine? I mean, obviously, the folks at ABC were very prepared for him to bring up the Walmart thing. It took about half a second before it was out of his mouth, before that graphic was up there. But it literally is like, hey, come on over. Do you want to jump into my lawnmower and get chewed up? And he comes out. Now, one of the things about Hassett is he has the ability to smile even when he's obviously clearly upset.
I actually have a bit of a humiliation fetish. So.
Exactly.
This is perfect for me.
But yes, all of the markers that they're talking about in terms of going down, the interest rates is done because we're afraid of job loss. Gas is down because we're probably in a recession in parts of the country at this point, not to mention certainly in terms of manufacturing building. And here is Kevin Hassett sort of now trying to sort of make us understand why the jobs are starting to go soft. Now, we know they're going soft in part because you have 1.5 million people who have, in terms of immigration, who we have no immigrants coming in, or immigrants afraid to go to work, or immigrants being detained. Yeah. And that means like we only have 4 people on this job site. We need 10, and now we can't build this house. So everybody go home. Here's Kevin Hassett trying to explain, well, we also have another problem, and it's just going to make things quiet for a while.
The last CPI report we got surprised 48 Bloomberg economists on the downside, and even had some sort of temporary bad news because there was a refinery that was shut down, if you're looking at the top line number. I think that there have been mixed signals in the job market and really, really positive signals in the output markets. As you know, we've got GDP now running close to 4%. We've got productivity running up around 3%. And so I think that there could be a little bit of almost a quiet time in the labor market because firms are finding that AI is making their workers so productive that they don't necessarily have to hire the new kids out of college and so on. But because there's so much output growth and income growth, that's the kind of thing that, you know, a free market will work out relatively quickly as, you know, new ways to spend money emerge.
That's sociopathic. Basically, essentially admitting about that the job market for young people is horrific and saying that, oh, don't worry, the market will sort itself out with AI.
Just around the corner.
The apocalyptic outcome that we've all been warning about, he speaks about it in such a blasé manner.
Well, first off, there's no reason to believe that if what he's saying is true, that this is going to be a quiet time. As if it's going to be just, we're going through a rocky period. Why would that change? If that is the dynamic that's going on, why would that change? Why would we expect AI not to be able to provide more layoffs or more lack of hires? And when he talks about productivity going up, understand, again, and even GDP, if that's possible, although I don't know that we have really seen these numbers. But what is clear is if you don't have entry-level people coming into the business world, as it were, getting jobs, entry-level jobs, yet productivity is going up and GDP is going up. What that's basically telling you is that we are building this economy on fewer and fewer people who are getting, because somebody's getting the benefit of that productivity going up, and it ain't those first-time workers. And so he says the market will take care of it, and it will find something else. We are seeing bubble after bubble after bubble in this economy, and I'm talking broadly over the past several decades. Right now, that bubble is AI. There is so much money that so few people have. They don't know what to do with it. It creates an anxiety for them that, like, wait a second, I've got $100 million in the bank. I've got $500 million in the bank. I got $1 billion in the bank. I need to make that money needs to be making more money for me.
Right.
Where am I going to do it? Somebody comes along and says the next big thing is going to be AI, and they throw that money in there. And it's basically, it is basically a Ponzi scheme.
Harvard economist Jason Furman recently said that AI investments accounted for nearly 92% of U.S. GDP growth in the first half of 2025.
So there you have it.
It's just entirely unsustainable. Yeah, go on.
Well, there's no profit being made from it.
Right.
Or I should say not substantial profit. And all it's doing is essentially increasing wealth inequality.
And also destroying our environment. Let's not leave that part
and
out
jobs
as well. Oh, that too. The trifecta.
All right. In a moment, we're going to be talking to Murtaza Hussain, who has, with Ryan Grimm and others at Drop Site, been writing a series on Jeffrey Epstein's involvement in, I guess, arms sales. I'm trying to think of a blanket, like seemingly everything. But we will get to that in just a moment. Some words from our sponsors. We got a couple today. When one goes shopping, one wonders for the holidays, what can I get someone? What's going to have impact on them for the year to come? I have an answer. It is called Cozy Earth. It can be sheets. It can be pajamas, which are incredible. But also all sorts of other clothing. I am like, as I started to think about it, like so much of my any given day, I have Cozy Earth sheets. They are fantastic. They are temperature regulating. They are soft. I don't know what more you would want out of sheets. They're fantastic. They look great. But then I also have Cozy Earth joggers. I have Cozy Earth hoodie, which is my favorite hoodie. PJs. They're incredibly. You were bragging about your PJs the other day.
I love them.
And now they have something called the Bubble Cuddle Blanket, which would be a great a gift along with some Cozy Earth pajamas. But also, I mean, they have incredible other gifts. The pajamas is what I'd go for. I mean, you give people sheets, I guess.
You can. Yeah.
If you have kids, maybe.
Yeah.
But honestly, you'll change their life for the entire, literally every night they go to sleep, they will be thinking about you because you gave them new sheets. But check it out. With the sheets, they got a 100-night sleep trial. If you don't love them, you return them hassle-free. They have a 10-year warranty because once you feel this level of comfort, you want it to last a decade. And I have had sheets that have worn out. Believe me, folks. Thanks to Cozy Earth for sponsoring this episode. Great products. Black Fridays come early at Cozy Earth right now. You can stack my code Majority Report on top of their site-wide sale. So in other words, you go there, they're having a sale, and then you get even more savings with the code Majority Report. That can give you up to 40% off in savings. That's CozyEarth.com. Code is Majority Report for a 40% off in saving. These deals will not last. So start your holiday shopping today. And if you get a post-purchase survey, be sure to mention you heard about Cozy Earth right here. Wrap the ones you love in luxury with Cozy Earth. We'll put the link in the podcast and YouTube subscription. Also, when we started doing this podcast, people were like, get merch, get merch. I was afraid to. And the reason why, because I didn't want to deal with a merch store. I'm like, it's going to be too complicated. I'm not going to be able to maintain it. I'm not going to be able to update it. I just don't want to deal with it. Years and years went by. People were like, why don't you have merch? Why don't you have merch? Finally, we did it with Shopify. And I will tell you right now, it made it so easy. You got to-do lists. You're worried that the merch store is going to overcome it. Finding the right tool that not only helps you out, but simplifies everything can be a game changer for millions of businesses. And our merch store, that tool is Shopify. Hello. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world, from household names like Magic Spoon to brands just getting started. Shopify has hundreds of ready-to-use templates to help you build an online store to match your brand. Doesn't matter if it's beautiful, edgy, or minimalist, or, you know, like from the early aughts, like Majority Report. Shopify is packed with AI tools to help you to put together product descriptions, page headlines, even enhance your product photography. Best yet, Shopify helps you with managing inventory, helps you with managing international shipping, processing returns, and beyond. You do something in real life, like a Majority Report show, you can integrate it easily with your inventory from your Shopify store. Plus, you will notice that we are on YouTube now selling our products, probably right under here. And that is by way of Shopify. Super easy to integrate on all the social media platforms. Check it out. Turn your business idea into a cha-ching with Shopify on your side. Sign up for your $1 per month trial. Start selling today at shopify.com/majority. Go to shopify.com/majority, shopify.com/majority. Again, we will put those in the podcast and YouTube descriptions. And lastly, today is also sponsored by, and the timing couldn't come better because this is a great gift for the holidays. And I mentioned that I gave one of these, I'm talking about an Aura frame, to my girlfriend's family. And they have a lot of kids, and they went crazy for these things. Not only all the kids filled it up in about 30 seconds, the picture frame, but they then bought multiple frames, and now they want to give me a frame.
Whoa.
As a gift. And so I was like, wait a second, we got a coupon code for that. But these are great. With Aura frames, you get unlimited free photos and video. All you do, you download the Aura app, you connect to Wi-Fi, and you can send them photos, videos off your phone, whatever. It doesn't matter. They go into a scroll. You can hear audio on these. And here's the amazing thing. If you want to give it as a gift, you can literally preload the frame with photos without taking it out of the box. You can add from anywhere at any time. So it can show up. It's super easy to use. You plug it in, hooks up to the Wi-Fi, super easy. The photos will show up there for your parents, for your uncles, your aunts, your grandparents. It doesn't matter. For a limited time, visit auraframes.com. Get $45 off of Aura's best-selling Carver matte frames, named #1 by Wirecutter. Use the promo code majority at checkout. That's AURA frames.com. auraframes.com. Promo code majority. This exclusive Black Friday Cyber Monday deal is the best of the year. So order now before it ends. Support the show by mentioning us at checkout. Terms and conditions apply. That's promo code majority. We'll put that link in the podcast and YouTube description. Honestly, that is a great gift. I got all the Aura frames here. Before my mom passed, we had an Aura frame for her. It was a great way to stay connected. It was awesome. All right, quick break. We come back. Murtaza, Hussain. We are back. Sam Seder and Emma Vigeland on the Majority Report. Want to welcome back to the program Murtaza Hussain. He is a journalist covering national security and foreign affairs at Dropsite News, and he has written, alongside with Ryan Grimm over at Dropsite, now a 4-part series. Is it going to be longer than this? Murtaza, you can answer that, about Jeffrey Epstein and his, I'm not sure how, it's so expansive, it's hard to describe it. His odd role in relationship to Israel and Israeli officials and their selling of weapons all around the globe.
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks so much for having me on, because just this subject is so important and something which has been talked about so much in the media the last few days, but really the crux of the matter has not really been addressed, which is the fact that Epstein, as we're showing in this series, which is an ongoing series, was somebody who was very much involved in global politics, you could say. He was a fixer and deal maker. The 4 stories we've done so far, they show Epstein involved in helping seed or you could say orchestrate back-channel diplomacy between the Israeli government and other governments. And the ones we've done so far include Cote d'Ivoire, Syria, and Russia. And we have several other stories, and almost like Mongolia as well, too. And we have several other stories coming out, I think, in the next few weeks, which will touch on other countries as well. But yes, Epstein was somebody who was very involved in the global arms trafficking trade, the tech, surveillance technology, the profusion of it the last few decades. Obviously, sex trafficking is known, but and many other things, money laundering as well, too. And we're going to dig deeper into that in the months and weeks to come.
Can you back up a little bit to talk about Ghislaine Maxwell's father's connections to Israeli intelligence? Because I think that might be important to understanding, and the arms trade more broadly, to understanding like what Epstein kind of got himself into via this partnership with Maxwell, his daughter.
Right. So Robert Maxwell was somebody who had a very interesting relationship, you could say, with intelligence services. He was sort of an asset to them. He was a very wealthy individual, and he used his connections to play, again, a role as sort of a fixer and someone who could deploy capital for various purposes, which were useful to foreign governments, especially Israel. And, this is something which is speculative in a way, but it's very logical, it seems, that almost that Epstein, upon Maxwell's death, he sort of inherited that role. And when we've seen in a number of different disclosures, I will say there's 3 so far major sources of information about Epstein that we have gotten recently. One is the House oversight documents, which are being released at the moment. The other are some documents from a lawsuit between the U.S. Virgin Islands and J.P. Morgan, alleging that Epstein was involved in J.P. Morgan, and that helped facilitate sex trafficking. And finally, a cache of emails between former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak and Epstein. And they show Epstein acting a lot like Maxwell did, basically acting as a fixer for Israeli government officials, helping them secure both economic and political interests in foreign countries. And there's a particular model that Epstein appeared to operate on with Barak, whereby the two of them, or often Barak coached by Epstein or guided by Epstein, would approach a foreign country that had security problems and offer them a range of possible solutions, usually involving surveillance technology and other military cooperation, which could be provided by Israeli private firms, which were in fact linked to Israeli intelligence. And once those non-diplomatic commercial and security arrangements start to form, a few years later, the Israeli government would often go in and sign a formal security agreement with that country. And that's what happened in Cote d'Ivoire, that's what happened in Mongolia, that's what happened in many other places. And Epstein was somebody who I would say, in my opinion, he had more contacts with people around the world, influential people in government and business and so forth, than any one person could really develop or manage organically. He was a central node to so many people in so many parts of the world. In Africa, he had huge connections in the Middle East, in Israel, in Europe, Russia, Central Asia, obviously the United States as well too. He was at the center of all of it, and he would open doors and make these things happen. And that was really the role he played. And that's not to diminish the importance of his involvement in sex trafficking and the abuses that he was ultimately arrested for. But it seems almost only one part of the full story of who Epstein really was.
Yeah, I mean, I think I want to reiterate that point that you just made at the end there, because this is not about diminishing it, but it is his role in the world is fascinating, and it's becoming more and more clear. And it also, what this stuff shows me, and then I want to get into sort of a little bit more of the specifics, but that he was the idea that he was working for the Mossad, I think, would be a mistake to sort of say that. It makes it sound like he was sort of like subservient, like they were his employee. Like, it sounds more like he is a broker, and the idea of these things being discrete things, like this is his job or that's his job, because it sounds like that he's more of like a broker in this stuff, which isn't to say that he isn't providing all sorts of information, Mossad, but it sounds like he's almost more senior level in which he's engaging in. And that, to the extent that information gets to the Mossad, it gets through other members of the Israeli government and God knows how many other governments. But let's, you can speak to that as we talk about the story, but your first story was in September 28th, and you referenced the cache of emails between Ehud Barak and Epstein. Where did those come from? Like the emails we're seeing now came from his estate via subpoena by the Congressional Oversight Committee. Where did those first emails come from?
Yeah, so our first story in September, as you mentioned, about this Israeli security agreement with Mongolia that Epstein was involved in helping put together, that information came from this hacked cache of emails from Ehud Barak. Now, these emails were hacked, it seems like some years ago. The majority of them are between 2012, 2016, and there are a few after that, but the majority of them came from around that time. We don't know exactly who hacked them, but it was claimed by this pro-Palestinian hacking group called Handala, which others have speculated may have had ties to the Iranian Ministry of Intelligence. Again, we're not totally sure, but they were dumped online, and then they were picked up by this organization called Distributed Denial of Secrets, and it's like a successor organization to WikiLeaks, and they have different dumps of data and emails from hacks and leaks all over the world. They're hosted on there. Anyone can go look at them. You can go download them and take a look at them and so forth. And they contain thousands and thousands of emails, like 50,000 emails roughly from Barak, and a few other Israeli officials at the time were also hacked. But in those emails, a subset of them are Barak's communications with Epstein. Now, Barak, people probably know he was Israeli defense minister. He was Israeli prime minister at one time. And these emails are mostly from the period of right when he was about to resign as defense minister of Israel. And then,
okay, just so people know, he was prime minister. I mean, he was in the military, obviously, in Israel. He was a general, I think a fairly well-decorated Israeli general. Became prime minister, was relative to sort of like Israeli politics, probably like, sort of like a moderate, maybe within the context of Israeli politics, sort of like left of center, but, that's Israeli politics are pretty far to the right. Then became, after he left office, he became defense minister, and then sort of like became, I don't know, a private defense minister, for lack of a better term, right? It's like just heading out and almost like paying the people who or getting paid by the people or selling to the people who who followed him.
Yeah, it's funny. Like in the Israeli political spectrum, so Ehud Barak is derided like an extreme leftist or something, which is not really the case. But that's the way he's positioned, given how things have moved in that direction. But yeah, so effectively, what Barak was doing, as we can see in the emails, is what a lot of American political officials also do, which is that when they leave public office, they try to find ways to make money. They want to make money as private citizens, and we can see in the communications that Epstein was seen by Barak as somebody who could help open doors to make him rich now that he's leaving his defense ministry role in 2013. He actually thanks Epstein in one email. They talk about money pretty much all the time. He thanks him in one email for helping him make a lot of dough, quote unquote. That was a very explicit part of their relationship, but they're also very good friends, and they talk about a lot of things. But Epstein was helping Barak accomplish two goals at once. First was to help take his nascent sort of consultant role off the ground and help him make these connections with foreign countries who would pay him, and foreign banks would help to give him finder's fees to find them clients and so forth. But in doing so, those connections and those deals that Barak was making would also help further the security interests of Israel and Israeli intelligence, because what he would do is he'd pitch these Israeli-linked intelligence firms and surveillance firms to foreign countries and foreign governments as a turnkey solutions to their security problems. And then they would sign these lucrative deals with these Israeli firms, which are almost always founded by veterans of Israeli intelligence. So, as you said, Barak was kind of acting as an unofficial sort of, maybe defense minister is the wrong word, but someone who was operating for the benefit of the Israeli government, Israeli security establishment, and so forth, while also being free to make money. And Epstein was helping him do both those things. He didn't have all the connections Epstein did, which is funny because he was the prime minister. He was the defense minister.
This what's so bizarre about this is like, how is a seemingly random civilian opening up more doors than a former prime minister of really of any country you would imagine? Like they'd be able to it's nuts. It almost feels like Epstein is opening doors in the Israeli government too, on some level, to Barak, but it's so strange.
Yeah, that's the thing. People have asked this question for a long time. Did Epstein work for Mossad? And I totally agree with you, Sam. I don't think he worked for Mossad at all. If anything, it seemed like the Mossad was working for him.
Yes.
Yeah, right. And in the interactions between Barak and Epstein, it's really notable. I've spent a lot of time looking at the emails. There's a clear power dynamic here. And Barak, mind you, at that time was one of the most influential, powerful people in the Israeli political and security establishment. He was looking up to Epstein. It was by no means that Epstein was going after him or trying to get his attention. It was really vice versa. He was eager for Epstein's attention and help and so forth, and as a mentorship, you could say. And Epstein, like I said, he had deep connections and ability to draw influence very much in Africa, very much in the Middle East, very much in Central Asia, Europe, Russia, all these places. There's also some documents were released as part of that lawsuit I mentioned earlier, the J.P. Morgan U.S. Virgin Islands lawsuit. In those documents, Epstein is talking about getting clearance to meet like foreign ministers of pretty much every country you can imagine in the Middle East, to have discussions about various matters, economic matters, and so forth. I don't know. He's also talking about meeting Putin. He helped arrange, we reported on this, he helped arrange a meeting and back channel between Ehud Barak and top Russian government officials to discuss a deal to remove Bashar al-Assad from power in 2013. He had unbelievable sway and pull. How he developed that, there's some theories about that. I don't think anyone really knows for sure. But by all means, he was somebody far more powerful than Barak, I would say, and the public officials of most countries. And he was sort of a free agent. He had clear ideological sympathies in certain ways. He had ties to some countries more than others. And some of that is reflected in our reporting, especially related to Israel. But he was somebody who was in many ways more powerful than all those people. And I don't think that, I also tell people, I think Israelis are also victims of the situation. Ordinary Israelis are definitely victims of the situation because their country was being used as effectively a base by these people who were making a lot of money, and they were doing things which arguably were only in their own interest. Right. And Israel was like a sovereign sort of destination from which they could organize that.
But how about Epstein's relationship too with Adnan Khashoggi from the arms dealer known for from obviously Iran Contra too? I mean, I feel like that doesn't necessarily get reported on that much, or was that more Maxwell's connection?
No, it was definitely also Epstein's connection. And
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
a very important point because, we're going to write about this more just to contextualize sort of the long history of Epstein. But, Iran-Contra was a very important step in the journey to Epstein becoming who he was and his friendship with Adnan Khashoggi and so forth. My impression is that Epstein was somebody, and he's talked about this, before he died, he bragged about this as well, too. He bragged about his connections to the global arms industry. But also, and he also mentioned diamonds and other things, but he also was somebody who was very involved in money laundering and sophisticated means of money laundering, which could be beneficial to foreign governments, foreign intelligence agencies, also American intelligence, the American government as well, too, when they wanted to fund certain activities but wanted to keep it away from public scrutiny. They could arrange sophisticated money laundering schemes. And Epstein seemed to be a master at money laundering. And Adnan Khashoggi was somebody who was very well known for his involvement in this kind of activity. There was an organization called the BCCI. It was a Pakistani-based bank many years ago, known to be very corrupt. Had ties to Adnan Khashoggi. Was involved in Iran-Contra. Epstein was very much in those circles, and he seemed to have learned the tips of the trade doing it at that time. And he blossomed in later years to become a power player in his own right. I think one really important part is we know, certain snippets of Epstein's life. There's a period, around the time from like 2003 to 2010-ish, where his life is completely like a black box. We really don't know much of what he was doing at that time. But I strongly suspect he was very involved in the Iraq War and helping facilitate it or conversations about, not saying he triggered it or anything like that, but he's somebody who was so deeply involved in every sort of major geopolitical enterprise of the U.S. and Israel and a few other countries that I would imagine that he had some involvement in that, such as he did in other later and previous episodes.
I mean, I have a lot of questions that may be sort of outside of your portfolio with this, because there are like the whole, sort of financial stuff that backs this too. I mean, at one point, maybe years from now, we will have a more holistic a vision of what is going on here, because it really is nuts that this guy is able to sort of like coordinate all these things. But I will say, there is a email going around in this latest trove where Epstein talks about Trump basically not just lending his name from a branding exercise, as a way of making money, but also being a Trojan buyer of a lot of stuff for wealthy people who wanted to launder their purchases. I mean, it has occurred to me, again, this is all speculation on my part. You've done a lot more reporting and digging into these things, that when in that birthday card, when he referred to them as both enigmas, I get the sense that that was about money laundering at the end of the day. I mean, I feel like that would be, it feels like Epstein would find a thing that he shared with these different people and then become this mentor, like Larry Summers asking how to, prey on, somebody who works for him.
But a mentor would imply that the relationship isn't coercive. I mean, he also had cameras and surveillance setups throughout his whole house. So, I mean, Murtaza, feel free to weigh in here, but like he recorded, it seems like a lot of incriminating information about.
But it's unclear. I mean, from the email, Murtaza, weigh in on this, but I'm like looking at his Larry Summers stuff, and that does not seem like Larry Summers is afraid of Epstein. It seems like Larry Summers is like, I'm a loser. Can you help me score with this, person who's working for me? I mean, it's nuts. It's like what I feel like a 12-year-old would say to some junior in high school, like, dude, how do I, like, it's like Fast Times at Ridgemont High when the guy's saying, put on that Led Zeppelin album, sort of. But Murtaza, weigh in on this.
Yeah, to Emma's point, it's this issue of the blackmail. It's interesting because I think there's very strong circumstantial evidence that, and I think it's very plausible that was the case. I haven't seen a smoking gun as yet that he was doing that per se. But one thing we reported on is that at his the apartments that he was administering in New York, the ones he's renting or have control over, there was an Israeli senior Israeli military intelligence agent living there for stretches of that time, weeks at a time between 2013, 2015. So one can imagine what the reason for that is. But and another aspect is that Epstein did have ties to Russian oligarchs, and we've also reported on parts of this, and they were well known to do this kind of thing. The whole compromat idea was sort of in some way pioneered by them. And there are some other emails which suggest, imply that this was going on, but I haven't seen a smoking gun per se. It's very plausible to me. But that said, I also think that a lot of these people, they didn't need to be blackmailed because they were willing to do what Epstein wanted anyways, because Epstein was somebody who, they wanted to be close to him because he was someone who could make you a lot of money. He could make you a very wealthy person if you have connection to him. He was someone who was the gateway to a lot of fun, quote unquote. He could, open doors to parties and God knows what, social circles that are very elite and so forth. So I think that he probably used carrots and sticks, and I've seen a lot of carrots, but we haven't seen necessarily firm evidence that he was doing that, although I think it's not by no means beyond the realm of possible at all. But yeah, he was somebody who was also very charismatic, clearly. He had a magnetic sort of personality. Powerful people were dying to talk to him and work with him or have his attention and have his time and so forth. So, I don't know. That's a very, very important part of who he was and how he operated. And these emails, he was just chatting in a lot of them with powerful people. Like they were using him as a confidant or somebody who they wanted to, like Larry Summers is a great example. They wanted his help as an individual. So I don't know what the particular elite culture was where these things were being discussed or what role exactly he played socially in this way, but it wouldn't surprise me that a lot of people did what he wanted just because they wanted to, even if some of them were also being coerced.
I mean, we should be frank. I mean, some of our faves were involved. Chomsky has written about. There's what seems to be some type of reference letter and where Chomsky talks about the access to insight and individuals in areas where Chomsky was he wanted to, it sounds like Epstein made, maybe it was Ehud Barak, it could have been other Israeli officials, so that Chomsky could sort of formulate his opinions and get an idea of what's actually going on, providing that type of access to somebody who wouldn't necessarily be able to sort of you don't imagine Chomsky having the opportunity, once he becomes such a full-throated critic, to be able to have access and insight from behind whatever, curtain that he has criticized. And it's like Epstein shows up and I'm like, I've got, you want reds? I got reds. You want blues? I got blues. I got uppers. I got downers. I got I got whatever it is that you want. It's like a weird world where this guy has all the information that people seem to be seeking from him. Now, of course, I'm not reading the emails that are just banal, but it seems really sort of fascinating. I guess the origin story is how it gives you a better sense of what this trajectory is, right?
Yeah, he made himself indispensable to so many people, seemingly. He was able to open doors for them and so forth. And, with Chomsky, it was fascinating because there are some emails between Chomsky, Epstein, and Ehud Barak in the separate disclosures, which were not from the House Oversight Committee, were then Barak's emails. And it seemed like Epstein and Barak just, they saw Chomsky as this brilliant curiosity. And there's one very interesting email. We might report this later on, but there's an interesting email where they were discussing some criticisms that Chomsky had made about the trajectory of the Israeli government, Israeli society, and they thought, this is actually made some good points here, and they're discussing his article and wanting to meet up with him and so forth. So I get the impression Epstein really enjoyed being part of these rarefied academic intellectual circles. He saw himself as someone like that as well too, even if he didn't have any formal affiliation. He obviously had this famous affiliation with all these elite educational institutions, And Chomsky was a legendary figure in them, even putting aside his political views, just as a linguist. So I think that they saw him as somebody who was someone who fit naturally into the social circle. And yeah, what Epstein was doing for Chomsky is really, it's hard to say. Maybe there's nothing, I don't know, but there could have been something as well too. But there was just something that there was a magnetism there that seemed to people want to be involved with him, and he could arrange funding for people. And we're going to do reporting about this later on. But people who are in academia and research and science, they need the funding for their projects and so forth. And he was somebody who's very well positioned to provide that, provided that there was something in it for him, or he found it to be noteworthy or in line with his own personal or political interests.
Within the context of the Barack emails, were there other figures that you came across aside from Chomsky who ended up being mentioned in these emails as being within the sort of like universe where Epstein operated?
A tremendous number of people all over the world did that. A lot of them, some of the known names are probably already known right now, but he just had such tremendous reach all over the world. A lot of them are people who may not be familiar to Americans, to be honest. People, senior political figures in Africa and in the Gulf Arab countries, and mid-level figures or upper mid-level figures. He was hosting many of them. His house in New York was like an unaffiliated diplomatic embassy. It was a diplomatic embassy for some parastatal force, which he was the ambassador. That's kind of how he operated. So, it was kind of taken as a given that he would be somebody who would be helping facilitate official diplomacy, business deals. He's very involved in the world of private banks. We have a forthcoming story, hopefully in the next 24, 48 hours, about his involvement with a very famous private bank. He would use his relationships to accomplish discrete political ends. And, one thing Epstein would do is he'd always do two things at once. Because whenever he's trying to accomplish a political goal, there would always be a financial component tied into it as well, too. So it was a very, in some way, seamless system that he was sort of operating under. And yeah, he was somebody who was above all these governments. He seemed to represent a class of people who were above all these governments from all over the world. They knew each other. They invested together. It was not really a huge world of people, to be honest. And when you look at those photos that the New York Times released in his mansion, you see like he was with the Emiratis and Israelis and British people and Americans and Russians. He had a tremendous reach and tremendous influence. And I think that it's just a little odd, actually, if you think of how did one individual who's a private citizen develop all that. Who did he work for? What influences did he represent? He certainly worked for himself, but there's something beyond that as well too. I think that if I were to put a rough point at it, there's like a global billionaire class, and he is somebody who was a very important node in that global billionaire class. That's who I would say Epstein was in the short and sum of it. And alongside that, he had relationships with all these governments and intelligence agencies while not working for them per se.
Do we have a sense of the first thing that occurs to me is I just the sheer amount of social connections the guy has, business, social connections, whatnot. I can't even I just don't understand how that works. Like, when do you have time to do anything? And, but do we have a sense that there was any type of apparatus? Like, I know Ghislaine Maxwell was his number two and must have had a big portfolio, if you will. But part of that portfolio also seems to be sort of like organizing the sex trafficking. Like, here he is. You've written stories about him going to Cote d'Ivoire and to Mongolia and to Syria, and presumably he's got other clients. He's also seems to have a burgeoning money laundering business. Like, all these things coincide. They all seem to sort of mix in with each other on some level. But is there any evidence of an apparatus? Has he BCC'd anybody? Has he CC'd anybody? This is what I can barely organize what we're doing here. And I just don't understand how does he keep in his head like, got to get to the Cote d'Ivoire because we're going to sell, this weapon system. But of course, we got this thing in Mongolia where we're going to do these security things. And I've got to, create a fake bank account in, the Bahamas. Like, I don't like, is there any sense that there's an apparatus that he's running, or who's doing like the grunt work?
It's a really great you bring that point up, because if you look at his schedules which are released as part of these House oversight disclosures, he had I don't know where he found the time to do the sex trafficking, actually, based on his schedules, because he was meeting people morning to night, traveling constantly, as you said, arranging these very intricate discussions and very important sort of geopolitical back channels and so forth. It's very interesting. And his schedule is put together by his assistant, was a Graf at the time. They would sort of manage what he was doing day to day, per se. But you're right, it's difficult. An organization would need to usually do this much, and it'd be difficult for an organization to actually execute this much just bureaucratically, or keeping all this information together, keep all these different projects going at the same time. What, if anything, was managing that? I don't know. I can't say right now what was happening. He could have hired a staff. Supposedly, he did have a significant staff who worked for him. So he could have been an organization unto himself. But I completely agree with you that the nature of his lifestyle and his contacts and the way he managed them and so forth was inorganic, in the sense that no one individual could do all of this. No one individual could manage all these contacts, all these different projects, leaving totally aside the illegal sex trafficking he was involved in. Just his geopolitical maneuvering was seemingly far beyond the purview of any one individual. Maybe he was superhuman. Maybe he just did it himself. I don't think so. I don't think so at all. I think that it's just it wouldn't make a lot of sense. And yeah, he had a staff, but even then, something doesn't add up here. So, I'll say, whenever I talk about Epstein, I say that, this is a situation, it's like the analogy of the blind person and the elephant. Like, everyone is touching one aspect of the elephant, but no one sees the full elephant. We're all like, I'm touching one part, and then the New York Times is touching some part, which I find less relevant and so forth, and stuff like that. But, we don't have the full picture. And I hope that we do develop the full picture over time. But, it's going to take a tremendous amount of disclosure and attention and evidence and reporting dedicated to actually uncovering the full scope of who he was and what he was involved in.
Well, also the Maxwell thing, I just feel like is still underreported. Like, her role is as being his number two. Maybe not. There's a lot of focus, of course, on her basically recruiting these girls for him to abuse, and literally driving around schools in West Palm Beach and doing that. I mean, it's horrific. But as I mentioned earlier about Robert Maxwell and his ties to the arms trade and to Israeli intelligence, like, he died mysteriously in the middle of the ocean, got pushed off or fell off his boat. I think that was what happened. Maybe he didn't get pushed off. Happens. We don't know. It had lots of mysterious stuff happening around the story. But like, how much did Epstein take over? Ghislaine was his favorite, his baby daughter, the boat was named after her that I think that he died on. And it seemed like a lot of people that observed their relationship seemed like she replaced this very intense relationship with her father with Epstein. And it would make sense if he took over business contacts for Robert Maxwell, right?
But even still, I would imagine, hi, I'm that guy that you did that arms deal with. I'm his brother, and is like his stepson. So let's do this. That also just seems like click. I mean, like, but getting. I want you to address that, but getting back just to the staff thing, has anybody gone out and like attempted to sort of unwind or pull on the thread of any of the names that were working in the staff? Like, I would imagine there's got to be like NDAs, but the guy's dead. And unless there's some, like, why wouldn't you, even if you got paid off, which I would imagine they all got paid quite well, you would imagine that one of them would speak unless they were afraid of like there being some other way of, being some other mechanism to punish them for speaking out about it.
Yeah, there have been some limited sort of reporting. People who work with him, security people, assistants, people who worked on staff at his mansion. Uh, it has not been very substantive. Some of them have passed away, like natural causes, I guess. But there it's been what I'd call kind of a limited hangout a little bit. The term people may know that this is intelligence term. There've been like a little bit of reporting about all these things, but the thread has never fully unraveled the whole way. And it's not always clear how much any one individual may have known about this situation. But I do think, there's a really important point, like the actual, take the one aspect of sex trafficking that Ghislaine was involved in. There are people who knew about that, and there are people in the staff who testified that they cleaned up at his mansion after these, abuses took place and so forth. Again, I don't know how Epstein learned how to do that, or decide to integrate that into his larger apparatus. One thing that does go back to Robert Maxwell, and beyond that is the ties to BCCI, because that bank, BCCI, which was this notorious global money laundering institution, they were very well known for sex trafficking, and they would traffic girls from Asia and South Asia to the Middle East, and that was part of their money laundering apparatus. It seemed like there's a class of people all around the world who were involved in this type of activity, whom Robert Maxwell was an integral part. And then by some means, it seems, though, that Epstein inherited, and this would just be a natural thing that they knew to do, or they knew that their clients, whoever they were, would demand this, or political expediency would demand this. And he just sort of was able to fulfill that role, given who he was and who his connections were and so forth. So, it's interesting because there are people who talk about this, and a lot of this stuff is public, and we are getting some disclosures about this. There's our reporting, there's a House Oversight Committee, his victims of sex trafficking have testified, members of the staff has testified in the past, but it doesn't really, the whole thing does never get put together. Even these emails that are coming out right now, they're really interesting, but they're all like what individual, shotgun-like blasts in different directions, and the whole thing is not really put together in a cohesive whole. They're really shocking, like, implications in many of these emails, and shocking implications of things people have said in the past too. But what does it all add up to? That's the question which has not really been fully answered.
What from the email trove of Ehud Barak was the most shocking to you? I mean, was it a series of stuff like where you're like, oh my God, wait, what? And like, it feels like that could have been like a rolling experience of like, how is Epstein, like, dealing with the Russians in Syria, and then also going to, Mongolia, and like, it's just bizarre. But what did you find most sort of surprising or shocking?
Well, it's interesting because the emails are all there, and like anyone can look at them, but it's not obvious what are being said in the emails per se, because this is like a snapshot of a particular time in both men's lives. It doesn't account for when they first met. It doesn't account for, it's like you're joining the story mid-conversation in a way in a lot of these cases. So it's only really after putting together the thread of what they're talking about each of these cases that, you come to some revelation that something very significant was happening here. So it takes a lot of time to look at them to actually determine that. It's definitely doable. It's just, it's an investment of resources and so forth, which I guess is a barrier to just reporting them easily. It's not like low-hanging fruit per se, even though they are available. But, I think it's fascinating, the casualness of all this, actually, in a way, because, one would think that back-channel diplomatic conversations were handled through some sort of quasi-official channels and so forth. It was really often just certain individuals who were very plugged in, who were part of these elites organically, who arranged these talks, which Epstein was doing for Barak in many, many parts of the world. But I think that it's not shocking, but the most revealing email in there is one we've quoted several times in the story, and I think we'll continue quoting because it kind of tells the whole story in a way. It's one where Epstein just emailed Barak out of the blue, seemingly. They just chatted very often with their friends. And he said, all over the world, in Somalia and Syria and Ukraine and all these places, there are this great upheaval, and people in power are very insecure and afraid. Isn't this perfect for you? And Barak responds, yes, but it's not easy to turn it into a cash flow, something for us to discuss on Saturday. So it seemed like the two of them were looking at the map of the world, Epstein had contacts pretty much everywhere, saying who's insecure, who needs help that we could provide them or sell them, and then using Barack as the guy who go do the pitch with Epstein encouragement. So I think that email sort of is distilling the broader little operation they were running in this case. They were exploiting global upheaval as a means of making money, and then also furthering security interests of certain states, and particularly in this case, Israel.
It's hard because, you know, like this stuff really sort of pulls at that thing in your brain where you just want to go to like the most sort of like conspiratorial thing. But the way I saw that email, I mean, it's in your pieces, obviously, but it really feels to me like that is Epstein trying to get him on the hook. Like the idea of like, there's a lot of opportunity out there for you, buddy. And Barack is like, yeah, I know, but I can't make it happen. It sort of feels like that's Epstein's way of saying, well, I can help you make it happen. And then, you know, there's this and this and this. And, you know, like.
And Barack, we should say, it's heavily implied in Virginia Giuffre's, I believe, accounts that he might have been the prime minister that assaulted her. That's accurate, right?
Yeah, there's nothing about that in the emails per se, but I have seen that reporting, and I did see her statements about that. She said a certain prime minister did that. I think the New York Post heavily implied it was him. I don't have any definitive information about that, but yeah, I did see that.
Just to say how interwoven, like all these financial dynamics are with the sex trafficking too. Sorry,
but I would imagine like that's part of it. It's like we're in this, dude. Like, you know, we go hang out. You know, we go to the strip club together on a regular basis, and you know, us doing business. You know, that type of like sort of dynamic where it's like we're all in on this. And it does that. Him emailing Barack out of the blue and saying there's a lot of opportunity out there seems solicitous to me in some way.
Yeah. So this is 2014. So they'd already known each other and been close for some years now, and they'd already done the deal or initiated the deal with Mongolia and Cote d'Ivoire, at least at this point, and other countries as well too. So they, you know. And, you know, to Emma's point, it's a really important point because all these communications, they don't talk about the sex trafficking aspect at all, so far as I've seen. But that's a subtext. We know it's happening. We know it's been going on. He'd been involved in that. He'd been convicted many, many years before that, the first time for that. So it's something which is an unspoken sort of additional layer in this onion that, you know, it does implicate the broader, suggests, you know, a broader meaning behind their communications. And, you know, Epstein, you know, if you look at the way he talks to different people, he talks to everyone sort of in a different way, so to speak. He kind of tells them not what they want to hear per se, but he would sort of project a certain image back at them, which was conducive to what their interests were, their desires were, and so forth. He definitely has a markedly different communication style with different types of people. So, you know, it makes sense that in Barack's case, you know, he helped make Barack a very wealthy person. And I think these emails show the whole process of that happening in a way. And, you know, Barack, he had certain political inclinations, he had desire to make money, he had other things going on maybe. And his communication with Epstein seems to evince a knowledge of all that and how to continue to get him along that process.
Lastly, did it occur to you, like reading these emails, like what is this dude doing using Gmail for all this? Like it's sort of like, that's the other thing. It's like they're doing all this over like CompuServe or AOL. It just seems so like Epstein feels like he doesn't have to worry about anybody finding this stuff out because there's almost a sense of like, who are they going to report me to? Like, I'm untouchable. It sort of feels like
well, that was the lesson he also got out of this 2007 non-prosecution agreement, was like, just basically, I am untouchable, right? That would make sense and line up with this timeline, right?
Yeah, I think there was a great sense of impunity reigning at that time. Not to say that they wanted anyone to read his emails or thought maybe it was not impossible, but you know, given the 2008 agreement, given a lot of things, and given the way he lived and the people around him lived, I don't think that they felt necessarily a great fear from the public or fear from accountability of any sort. So it's not just him who's using the Gmail, like Barack was using the Gmail, and other very powerful people, Americans and others, were using like AOL and Hotmail and so forth. This is 2014, 13, around that time, and these people from an older generation who may have been less acclimated at that time to the whole concept and so forth. But it was very cavalier. And I think if you look at the later communications, especially the House disclosures, which are more recent in time, 2019, 2018, like that, he does seem to become a bit more cagey. And he says more often that certain things should only be discussed on the phone and so forth. But he's still using his Gmail. He's still using that to communicate with these very powerful people. So, that's a
and we
very,
should say
very...
this is after, like, it's not like, like Petraeus got, I think he was, I don't know if he was convicted, but he was prosecuted because, they found that he was doing that draft thing with the Gmail where I think it was his girlfriend / reporter who was writing about him. They would communicate by just sharing a Gmail account and writing back and forth just in drafts. So it was never actually even emailed out. And they still were able to find that. So it's not like, it's not like my dad going like, wait, what? They can look at AOL emails? Really? Like, the guy has some savvy. It's just as if he just thinks he has impunity on some level.
I think that sense of impunity kind of goes to, it's like a very important part of the whole story, because even the sex trafficking and the criminality and so forth, not just Epstein, but a lot of these people, they seem to believe that they were somehow above all sort of legality and morality and propriety and so forth. That's just the broader impression I get from their broader range of activities. Like even the use of an island and all the, spectacularly illegal and immoral things that are going on there. It just seemed like there's no way that anybody could possibly see what we're doing or stop us, or the idea of us being stopped is simply impossible. That's just a tremendous amount of hubris, I would say, which is in the emails, not just with Epstein, by the way, many, many other people. And when you get that level of hubris, you can make mistakes and you can become cavalier in a way which could be injurious later on. That's what they seem to be operating as, though. And I would say that I get the impression that culture still exists, and maybe Epstein was taken down for some reason, but that broader global elite culture, and you see it like all over the world, that's very, very much prevalent. And, this is just one glimpse into it, and who knows what's going on right now.
I think at the end of the day, that is probably like the biggest takeaway from this is the sort of, there is a cohort of people living amongst us, but they're not living amongst us. They are operating under an entirely different set of rules. And it explains a lot of times their decision making, because I think, more than anything else, at least in the context of the sex trafficking, these are not people who I think even contemplated the idea that like, well, I'm doing sex trafficking. I mean, I think they were aware that they could break laws, and there's some emails from Epstein that suggest, Dershowitz was getting information to see like what the specific laws were, but they clearly didn't look at these girls or women as, as human beings. They were just, these are all, and I think that across the board, it's like, we're humans and everything else is just sort of like things for us to exploit in some fashion. Murtaza, Hussain, we will link to your pieces on DropSite. And look forward to more of these coming out. It is, there's so much to this story. And again, I think it really speaks to sort of an elite perspective on the world that we as just mere humans don't know much about it. But appreciate your time today.
Hey, thank you both for having me on. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
All right, folks, we're going to take a quick break and head to the fun half.
Yes.
Wherein you can IM the show if you're a member, and we will read your IMs. We may take some phone calls. We will have some fun out on the trail, as it were. Don't forget, you can join us there by becoming a member at jointhemajorityreport.com. When you do, you not only get the free show free of commercials, but you also get the fun half. And perhaps even more importantly, you help this show survive and thrive. Your support is what keeps this show independent. And, we don't always say the stuff that our members or our audience wants us to, but, at least we're saying it because we believe it and we don't get necessarily a benefit from saying it. Also, Just Coffee, although with that said, here's an ad. JustCoffee.coop. Although I do actually genuinely love this coffee, and I really do love this company. Just Coffee has been a sponsor of this show, or even the one preceded it, the Break Room Live, for 20 years, or 18, or I don't know, some math problem. But JustCoffee.coop. Fair Trade Coffee. They're a co-op in Madison, Wisconsin. They sell a Majority Report blend, but they also have all sorts of single origin. And if you use the coupon code Majority, you get 10% off. Matt, Left Reckoning, or The Jacobin Show.
Yeah, actually, folks on YouTube can go over to Jacobin's YouTube channel and, of course, watch the first episode of The Jacobin Show with David Griscom and I. But also, folks, check out the link here. You can get 4 print issues of Jacobin for just $10, or year-long digital access for $5 by using the code there.
Wow.
So if a lot of people decide today's the day they need to do their Jacobin subscription, I would be much obliged.
That's the way to get it.
If you did it through that link.
Let's just scroll up a little bit. There's a couple of things I noticed. First off, you know what it is? I love that wave at the bottom. Oh, yeah. That is super cool.
Yeah. As a
Also,
graphic. It's minimalist, but it gets the job done.
Now, does Griscom get a little bit upset that he seems to actually, groom himself for the show, and then you just seem to, show up?
So we're on different timelines when it comes to that, but I'll just say,
So Griscom is, moving forward into
at a faster
middle
pace.
age.
Yeah, at a faster pace, and that's actually an improvement if you clock it over the previous.
You did
episode.
you look like you shaved there.
I did shave. I am still wearing my basic Hanes T-shirt. My nice 4 for $20 pack there. But yeah, we're upgrading. So
Griscom's got he's got prints in the back. He's got a sport coat on. He's got a bookshelf.
Well, he's the main host for the Jacobin Show. Too,
Okay.
So I'm just a producer in the background.
I got you. Okay.
Who weighs in whenever he wants. Yeah, best of both worlds for Matt. Very similar to what you do here.
That's awesome. You can wear it whenever you want.
H. John Cedar. Hey, I ordered an M Majority shirt and the expected delivery date was last week. Is there a way to get a tracking number? I will look into that.
Probably hasn't shipped yet. Didn't we say that it's a pre-order, so it was going to come around Thanksgiving? I thought that was what.
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah, so I just think maybe just a little bit of patience, and then we'll see. Hopefully it'll come soon.
Folks, see you in the fun half.